If you can hear any background noise, I sincerely apologize, but my area is going through some very turbulent winds right now. With all of that, welcome back to the channel, guys, and today we are going to be talking about some of the best, in my humble personal opinion, beginner plants that you can own. So it can be quite overwhelming when you're first getting into the plant hobby because there can be just so many plant varieties out there for you to choose from. In general, if you are starting off with a couple plants or just one plant, there are going to be some plants that you want to avoid and some plants that are just going to be easier for you as a beginner. So today I'm just going to be going through 9 different plants that I personally recommend as great beginner plants. I have kept all but one specific category of this plant, and all of these varieties, I'm looking around at all of them laid out, are really good beginner plants. With just minimal effort, you're going to have really good success with these guys. But before we get into the rest of this video, if you're interested in plant related content, then please feel free to subscribe down below. I make videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, so feel free to stick around and get caught up with all the rest of my previous plant related content, which I will put up in the cue card over there. With that being said, let's get into the first plant that I personally recommend. Where did I put it? And that is a heartleaf philodendron. And the same thing goes for a Brazil philodendron, which is pretty much the same thing, just with variegation. But the reason why I recommend this plant is because they are really forgiving and also really fast growers. They're pretty lush looking plants, I guess if you want to say that. Again, they're just pretty rewarding to keep. This is a more leafy kind of plant, so it's not something like a snake plant or a succulent. So if you like the look of having leaves on your plant, then this might be a good choice. This type of philodendron, which is a philodendron cordatum, or again, heartleaf philodendron, is a vining type of philodendron. So as you can see over here, it's starting to vine off of the base of the plant. And so this type of growth structure, a lot of people really like, including myself. Vining plants are just super cool, and I love the draping architectural looking shape of them. So if you're looking for a vining plant, either the Brazil or the heartleaf is going to be a really good choice for you. As for lighting and water requirements, these guys are really good about being adaptable to different types of lighting conditions. So in general, I would say these guys are going to be good for you, including low light. As for water, it's the same with a lot of plants. It's just letting them dry out thoroughly between waterings, and then once the soil is dry, fully watering all of their soil so it is all moist, but not so the plant is sitting in a pool of water. And if you do that, then you should be fine. The next one, I think a majority of people would agree with me on, and that is the Monstera deliciosa. And these guys are awesome plants for sure. They have such a unique growth structure of their leaves, and they can get really big. So if you have some large space to fill with a plant, then these guys are going to be excellent choices. Similar to the heartleaf philodendron, monsteras can live in a majority of different lighting conditions, but I do find if you want your plant to grow quickly and have a lot of these fenestrations in the leaves, then putting them in more bright or medium indirect sunlight is going to be better and cause more of that growth to happen. I originally had my Monstera deliciosa in a east-facing window that was obstructed by some trees, and it grew quite slowly and had a lot less of the fenestrations in the leaves. But I recently moved it to a south-facing window, and it is now pumping out so much growth even though it's November, and by this point we should be well into the off-season for growing. But again, same to the heartleaf philodendron. For the watering for these guys, you're just going to want to make sure that the soil thoroughly dries out and then water it. As I mentioned earlier, these guys can get quite big, and they are also technically a vining plant, so you can train it up poles, or you can just kind of have them sprawl outwards. It's really up to you, but if you let them, they are going to get quite large. The next plant that I highly suggest to a lot of beginner plant owners is the Dieffenbachia, or the dumb cane plant. And this one I have right here isn't that great of a specimen, I guess you could say. It was a semi-rescue from a local nursery of mine, but this is a Dieffenbachia memoria corsii, and there are a multitude of different Dieffenbachia species that you can choose from. All of them have relatively the same care, but if you're looking for a plant that you can have a ton of different color combinations for, then the Dieffenbachia is a good option. Dieffenbachias are also pretty good low light plants. My house generally doesn't get that great of lighting except for a few key spots, so having low light plants is definitely nice. Obviously, if you put them in more medium or bright indirect lighting, then they will grow faster and their leaves will most likely be larger, but that does not mean that they can't survive and even do well in a lower light spot. As for watering, I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, but it's pretty much the same as the previous two. Just stick your finger in. If it's dry, then you can water it. Also, just making sure that it can fully dry out between the waterings. Dumb canes can also get quite big. Eventually, they will grow these long canes, as their name suggests, and they will almost resemble trees. I remember as my other Dieffenbachia, which I will grab, my Dieffenbachia Camille, has been dropping a few of its lower leaves, especially when I first got it, less so now. As these things get older and larger, I bet you can't really see me, but they are going to lose a lot of their lower leaves, and it's going to be a lot more of that upper foliar growth that you're going to see. The fourth plant variety that I would highly suggest would be succulents and also cacti. I am personally not that much of a succulent or cacti person. I think they're definitely cool. I do have some here, but the good thing about both cacti and succulents is that if you are a forgetful waterer, which a lot of people tend to be, especially in the beginning, then both cacti and succulents can last a little bit longer without watering and actually tend to do better if you don't overwater them or over care for them. They both tend to like a little bit more light, or else they're going to get really leggy or lose their color. Here I just have a grafted moon cactus, and I have to say this thing has probably not changed since the day that I got it. Obviously it's still doing well, its base is still green, and yeah, it's perfectly fine. Here, however, is a little bit more of an interesting specimen, I guess. And this is a succulent. Again, if you want to see this video right here, I talk a little bit more about how I got it, and it has been putting out new leaves. And I'll show you in a little bit of B-roll here, but I was not expecting this to survive or root at all, but it is actually putting out new little rosettes at the base of the plant, which is super cool. The next plant that I have here is peperomia, and this is an awesome plant family variety if you have pets in the house that you know are going to get into your plants, because it is actually non-toxic for pets. These guys tend to have a little bit more of a waxier succulent-like leaf. There are some that don't, but I'm specifically talking about the more waxy leaf variety. And because of that, they're going to be a little bit better with a miswatering or two, or just less water in general. Peperomias do tend to like a little bit more light, but I actually keep mine in maybe medium light, and this guy is doing perfectly fine. Another reason to like peperomia is they're just really adorable. Here I have a variegated peperomia. You can see it is just super cute, round and thick leaves, and again, they're just really easy to take care of. So if you're looking for a beginner plant that really has some nice structural elements to it, then a peperomia, specifically this kind, would be a good choice for you. Aloe, ZZ plants, or snake plants, all of these plants have a lot thicker of leaves, and especially for the ZZ and the snake plant, they can live kind of anywhere in your house regardless of lighting conditions. And I know since I had them when I really didn't know anything about plants, they were pretty easy to keep alive. All of these guys can do with a lot less water, and that makes it a really good plant for our forgetful plant parents in the audience here. So the aloe plants like a little bit more sunlight, but as for the snake plants and ZZ plants, you're going to have really good luck putting them in the majority of spots in your home. The seventh plant are syngoniums. This is an adorable little syngonium plant here, but the reason why I put it on this list is because, again, just like the majority of these plants, they are going to be low light, and they're also pretty predictable in their watering. They grow pretty quickly and are actually vining plants. So they start off in this upright position, but eventually they will start vining off. And they also have a lot of really cool different varieties with colors like pink or really bright white or deeper greens. You could really get some cool syngonium varieties depending on what you're looking for. The eighth plant on this list here is kind of heavy, and it is this spider plant. Yes, it is a very big mother plant I have right here. But these guys grow incredibly fast and they create a lot of babies. So if you're looking for a plant that you want to give to your friends, then this is the plant for you. I think a lot of people would agree that even if your family really wasn't into plants, most likely your family probably had one of these somewhere. And it's pretty easy to understand why, because these guys, again, are super hardy and really fast growers. They enjoy humidity if you're willing to provide it, but if not, they're going to do fine. It's not going to by any means kill the plant, and it's going to be perfectly fine even without that humidity. As for lighting requirements, they're pretty adaptable to different lighting conditions, so I wouldn't put them in the darkest corner of your home, but if you have medium light or medium to low light, all of those conditions they're going to be really good in. As for watering, again, it's just letting the soil dry out. They can do well even if you forget a watering or two. If you're looking for a more interesting, unique variety, I know there is a Bonnie spider plant which has more curled looking leaves, but again, if you're looking for a plant to share, these guys are super cool. The last one, which I'm going to guess that a lot of you were guessing would be on the list, is the pothos, of course, and specifically the golden pothos. These guys you can find practically anywhere. I would say if you're looking for one plant to choose out of all of these, I would definitely choose the pothos. They're a vining plant, so you can either stake it up or let it drape down. And it's always really exciting to see what the next leaf looks like. Because of their variegation, they always tend to look different. And even over here with this pothos plant, it's really interesting because this might look like a Marble Queen pothos section over here, but this is connected to the same vine as all of these guys in here. So I have no idea what happened to this. If anyone knows how these plants change their variegation pattern, please leave it in the comments down below. But again, super fast grower, and if you have a plant that is nice and full, you can absolutely propagate it super easily. You're gonna have so many of these guys in your home, even if you only start out with one. As an example here, if I just go and grab it, this is a container of just all of my pothos cuttings, and this is by no means all of my pothos cuttings. I have quite a few more. These guys, you can see, are beginning to grow roots. Absolutely amazing plant, and obviously it's quite common, but I think by no means is it overrated. It deserves the hype. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video about learning what types of plants are good for beginners. If you have any other suggestions, please leave it in the comments down below, or tell me if you end up buying any of these plants, then also leave that in the comments. I would love to hear your stories about what plants you prefer. So with that being said, again, if you have not already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell down below. Leave a like, and also you can check out my Instagram where I post quite regularly, which is in the description box down below. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.